now that we looked at the three most powerful factions in the game, or it became more than three, but if you saw the video you know why, I'm going to be taking a look at the bottom three factions. And the Western Roman Empire is, I'm going to say they are the worst faction in the game, and I'm going to be lying a bit. They are not. This is going to be a bottom three. I'm not going to rate them in terms of which of these are the absolute worst. They're just all pretty terrible. Now the problem with the Western Roman Empire is that their melee cavalry selection is complete trash compared to Germanic horse. The Scholae Palatinae, they have worse stats, they cost more, they just cannot stand up to the Germanic horsemen, and a skirmish advantage is easily nullified by a cavalry advantage. The Romans are going to lose on the charge in infantry. Their attacking testudo doesn't work, so they are outranged by Germanic archers. So the Western Roman Empire is, due to its composition, the Western Roman Empire has to go on the offensive. Now, if the Western Roman Empire goes on the offensive, the Western Roman Empire is going to be losing the cavalry fight, it's going to be losing the skirmish fight, and it's going to be a relatively short affair when Western Roman army comes up against a Germanic faction, if the Germanic player has a good idea of what he's doing. So the Scholae Palatinae, they are not units that benefit as much as Germanic horse from upgrades. They have less armor, they have less health, they are just not as sturdy and cheap as the Germanic horse, but still upgrade them, but you're not getting as much out of it. So as the Romans, you're in the position that you're losing the skirmish fight, you're losing the infantry fight, you're losing the cavalry fight, and then there's nothing left, you just lost. Now, the Huns. The Huns are also one of the weakest factions. Now, the Huns are very weird in Attila because they have a decent general in the Steppe Chieftain. They have decent spears. They have the best sword units in the game in the UR Warriors because they have a 20 bonus against infantry. Their archers are a bit lackluster. They have the most cavalry in the game, but they have the highest amount of shit cavalry units in the game. If you bring steppe lancers, they're going to die to skirmishers and cavalry really quickly. They don't have any good melee cavalry. There are no good melee cavalry units for the Huns. They all have a distinct lack of health, armor, and are hugely overpriced. So if you're going to be doing well as the Huns, it's ironically going to be as an infantry spam by bringing a lot of UR warriors and Bosphoran warriors, Bosphoran infantry, because these units are great units. Look at their health, look at their basically look at their everything. They're just great units. So as the Huns, you can win a grind out fight, but outmatched against too many infantry units and against the Germanic factions that have longer range than your archers, it's going to be super difficult for the Huns. And for the Sassanid Empire, I know this is going to be controversial, but I'm also going to put the Sassanid Empire in the bottom three. And the reason for this is the same as for the Huns, basically. We have a distinct lack of good, cost-effective melee cavalry. They do have the Persian mounted warriors, and they are decent, but they have a lack of armor, melee defense, their health isn't great, very cheap units. In terms of infantry, you don't have the best selection either. In melee infantry, you have Daylamites, decent defensive infantry, elite Daylamites, but compare the performance of these units to, for example, the UR warriors, or the much cheaper Gothic war bands and such units. They are just not great offensively. Maces also have a massive problem. They have 2 reach, but they have very little armor penetration and no bonus against infantry. So the problem that the Sassanids often find themselves in is that they are outmatched in terms of melee cavalry. Their shock cavalry gets ground down slowly by the enemy cavalry. And although they have the most cost-effective selection of shock cavalry in the game, except for the Burgundians. The shock cavalry is just too easy to deal with by missile fire and such. And one of the problems with the Sassanid roster is that they have very expensive archers compared to the Germanic archers, but they don't have the range. They're not as cost effective at all. Now these Persian bows cost the same as the Germanic archers, and they're sitting about, I think it's 150 range from what I remember. So yeah, 150. And it can always be debated whether this faction is slightly better if you use it in another way, blah blah blah. But I think the bottom 3 factions for me are going to be Western Roman, Huns, and Sassanids. I'm going to rate even the Nordic factions higher than those factions because they have better melee cavalry. And yeah, those are the bottom 3 factions in my opinion. They need help in order to be viable in competitive multiplayer. But I'm just going to finish this video by saying that the entire multiplayer experience in Total War Attila needs help to be viable. Strength and honor.